standing on the water, it shall not be moved.
It's a very pretty backdrop there, very pretty. Oh, is that it right there? Where it says Strike That, Bay Area? Oh, wow, look at that. Oh, there it is. I see that one, that's pink or sort of orange. Yeah. Holy cow.
Okay, this is a song that was written by Carol Denny. To My Body Lies Over the Ocean. The post office right here in Berkeley.
Yeah.
Was built back in 1914, and now they say it's on the market. They want you to think it's routine. Stand up, save the post office today, today. Sing that, stand up, save the post office today. Went to the post office Tuesday to mail me a letter or two. The office was closed up at 40, and now I don't know what to do. Stand up, save the post office today, today. Stand up, save the post office today. They want to stop 6-day delivery, degrade service standards and more. They tell me they just can't afford it, but I think I've heard that before. Stand up, save the post office today, today. Stand up, save the post office today.
Thank you very much, Christine. Thank you all for coming. Before I get into the background of this situation here at the Berkeley Post Office, I just want to ask you, in the next route, how many of you can get one additional person? Each one. Let's see. There's a lot of room. How many of you get two? You get the idea? It's got to be momentum, growing and growing. So those of us back east, we look to Berkeley for leadership. So you say this wonderful, majestic building and historic significance, the inheritance of Benjamin Franklin, who didn't exactly think that after a couple of centuries and a half that the post office would mutate into Staples or other big box stores where they want to have kiosks and get the local post office. 32,000 branches and central offices, more than Walmart and McDonald's and a couple other big chains combined. We've got 32,000 outlets, community outlets, nonprofit outlets, gathering places, places where federal information about their names and their rights can be posted, where people can talk things up and meet, as well as get postal service. So this is not just a matter of stamps or delivery on Saturday, as that is. This is a fundamental institution that binds the country together. It can be updated. It can be free the shackles of UPS and FedEx and others who have made sure that the post office is prevented from delivering beer and wine, for example. Other things you can't do to get revenue increases. Now watch what happens when the myth, the propaganda of the collapsing post office is proposed. U.S. Postal Service is a public corporation. It's the only major corporation in the United States that is a creditor of Uncle Sam, a creditor of the U.S. Treasury. Since it was established in 1970, it hasn't received a penny in subsidy from the taxpayer. Very few people know that. In 2006, a Trojan horse bill was passed through Congress that requires the Postal Service to overpay, vastly overpay for its pension benefits, for which it has a $60 billion outstanding credit to it from Uncle Sam with U.S. Treasury. That's where being credited. Of course, the U.S. Treasury has already spent the money on, war for the military-industrial complex, the F-35 and the Trident submarines, which can blow up 200 cities per submarine around the world in 45 minutes. They don't have any money for the U.S. Postal Service. But you don't need that money. They just need to overpay on retiree benefits and the huge overpay for health insurance. There's no corporation in the country that is required by law to prepay 75 years in advance of health benefits. 75 years. So if you eliminate these prepays and get down to normal, prudent accounting, the post office about breaks even. Can you imagine, even with the reception, even with the internet, even with all the young people abandoning the post office, imagine if they would ever send a thank you letter by postage. You don't even know what postage is, okay? Even with all of that, according to the data, and Senator Bernie Sanders has put this out, go to his website, you'll see, it's about breaking even in the last 5-6 years. It's about breaking even. So this is a exaggerated prices built into Trojan horses in order to fulfill a number of purposes. One, deliver more business to a parasite private corporation. Okay, that's one. The second is to deliver real estate to the developers and the brokers. This is not just a historic post office. This is a piece of value real estate all over the country. They want to convert them. If they don't knock them down, they'll convert them into other commercial operations. Right, so I write in October of last year, I wrote Senator Dianne Feinstein a letter. She's a spouse of Richard Blum. I take it you know. Look at this sweetheart. Look at the sweetheart deal he cut. His firm is called CBRE, CB Richard Ellis Group. He's the chair. All right, so he gets a contract. This is where people were asleep, and the unions were asleep. He signed the contract to sell off postal properties all over the country without competitive bidding. He can actually deliver some of these to his business associates, conflict of interest. And he now has amended the contract so he can do his own appraisal. How about this? You appraise the property so that you can sell it for less than real market value. Even though the contract says you have to sell it for real market value, he said, well, we appraised it, and it's just, things are selling. It didn't come in, and then he sells it to his buddies. Now, the Inspector General of the U.S. Postal Service issued a withering report condemning it. So you can go to the Postal Service website, and you can get it. And also, Peter Byrne, he's not here now, but he's with the East Bay, is it? What paper? Yeah, he publishes an East Bay Express, and he exposes it. So you see, you have more than a nostalgic reason to preserve this. You have more than a historic reason to preserve this. You have more than a functional reason to preserve this. I mean, companies go up and down, right? Sometimes they go bankrupt and they're rescued by the taxpayer, and they come back with General Motors and Chrysler. But of course, that's never permitted for an awesome historic institution like the U.S. Postal. They don't get bailed out. They don't get bailed out. They don't get bailed. And what you need to do is also oppose this for corporate crime purposes. Because what's going on here is a sweetheart deal. There's a lot of shady stuff. So you want to preserve this post office, you expose Richard Blum. Now Richard Blum, he throws his weight around. He's reshaping the University of California in commercial images and corporatized images. But he's also on the Board of Regents. He's no longer the chair, he's on the Board of Regents. So next time the Board of Regents meet, what you ought to do is go there, make this the issue. Right, bring it to the Board of Movement. You're not lacking for any slogans. Okay? So, here's the strategies I suggest that you've got your own. If you've got to show it's a building momentum, that's what they're afraid of. Something's building, because they know how to wait people out. Well, they showed up, just ignore them, and they'll get tired. In the process, you're educating your children and your grandchildren into why this postal service nationwide is so important. When the chips are down and something is definitely needed for delivery, it cannot be delivered over the internet, and private corporations say it's not profitable enough. What's left in 32,000 areas around the country? It's the U.S. Postal Service. Okay? I remember when I was a kid, it was only a few years earlier, they delivered eggs. Literally, overnight, they delivered eggs. Sometimes you have to Farmer Jones in the morning, you got it in the afternoon. Okay, so now there's another drawing here that's important. That is, in getting more revenue from the Postal Service and breaking the shackles that prevent it from doing this, even internet things, restricted. The Board of Directors of the U.S. Postal Service has been dominated since 1970 by corporatism. We have the Postmaster General who takes his orders from the corporate Board of Directors. And so you have the president's Democrat, Republican, routinely appointing the majority of people who come from corporations or corporate consulting firms. There are 32 million people in this country who are unbanked. Not only 32 million workers who make less today than 1968 adjusted for inflation. Imagine, 46 years ago. I mean, how much can people take in this country? Answer, a lot. How much can they take? Answer, a lot. How much should they take? None. Nothing. Okay, so you have 32 million unbanked people. Why? Because it costs money to have a banking account. You know, Bank of America charges, Citigroup, PNC, they all charge you, they want to charge you like a credit card company if you don't have enough in the bank at the end of the month. So you have 32 million. Well, up until 1968, there was the U.S. Postal Savings, part of the post office. You had a bank. You went, you put your savings in, you got a little interest, you could borrow money. That was terminated by the banking law of 1968. Now we are seeing a growing movement to bring it back. You say, you don't want 32 million customers? Okay, too bad. We're not going to let them be on the bank. We're not going to let them not unable to remit money back to their native countries, feed their families without getting 10% gouged and so forth. So there is a growing effort now. In fact, the Inspector General of the Postal Regulatory Commission has come out saying this is a pretty good idea. It could happen. The need is enormous. 30 million people. And it has historical antecedents.